Hey everyone, it's Jessica. Welcome to the first Q&A for the Universe Tribe website. I did an email launch prior to the membership website going live, and I asked for people to send in their questions, and that's where these questions came from. I'm going to go ahead and read the first question to you, and it is, how can I overcome depression using the law of attraction? I feel very discouraged and as if I'm in a self-defeating cycle that I can't get out of. So the first thing to realize is that we all have moments where we don't feel okay, and it's okay to not feel okay. When we get into a depressive state, it's really just a cycle of negative thoughts attracting more negative thoughts. We all know how the law of attraction works. Like attracts like. So if you're in a negative state, you're pulling more negative thoughts to you. Really what's important to realize is that your spirit is not in a negative state, and that's the inner essence of who you are. Your spirit's not going to work against you. So you always have that inner self that you can refer back to, that's the pure essence of who you are, that really comes from a positive space and a peaceful space, and it's never going to turn you wrong. So in order to reach that, really meditation for me is one of the most important things. Even if you just take a few moments a day to reach into that center space and find the essence of who you are, and just kind of let those thoughts float away if at all possible. Another great tip is to exercise. When we exercise, we burn off some of those stress hormones and we get some of that anxiety out of us that may just kind of sit in us if we're not moving and shaking and getting our body kind of into the effort of moving towards positivity. So that's another great point, is to try to exercise to the best of your ability, even if it's just for a few moments. So those two things, meditation and exercise, can really make a huge difference. May not sound like it, but small steps really can add up to make really big changes. So those are the first things I would say that you should start with if you're feeling like you're in a depressed state. I would also say that it's important to remove yourself from situations and people that breed more negativity. It could just be individuals that you're around. It could be that you're watching something on TV, like the news, that's breeding negativity or making you feel some type of anxiety. It could be social media and seeing what other people are saying. So those are my pointers to start working yourself into a more positive state. Question number 2 is, I feel stuck. Nothing bad is happening in my life, but nothing extraordinary is happening either. How can I move into a space of creating the bigger dreams that I want to manifest? So if you're not moving forward, there's generally things that are probably holding you back. From a subconscious point of view, this is just your familiar territory. So your brain becomes used to the things that are already happening in your life, and it likes the routine. Subconscious mind loves routine, actually. It likes the routine. It likes to keep everything nice and tidy and neat, and if we step out of that, it gets a little freaked out. So it'll do everything it can to keep you in that routine and keep you kind of centered in the familiar reality that you already have. So anything that has your attention and focus continually recreates itself as your life. You just have to take just the tiniest bit more action, just a little more action, and put a little more energy into the things that you want. For example, if you wanted to buy a house or you want to move into a new house, then you might want to get in the car and go house hunting, even if it's just to look at the houses. You might want to go meet with a banker and see where you are in terms of being financially able to move into a new house. You might want to decide to save a little more money, open up a savings account specifically for putting a down payment on a house. That's just an example. You just want to tweak a little bit what you're doing so that you're adding more energy. And the more that you do this, it's going to create a snowball effect. So you're not stuck anymore. You're not living in the mundane reality of familiarity. You're actually moving yourself towards a larger reality and the larger dreams that you're interested in manifesting in your life. Okay, so question number 3. What's the biggest tip that you can give someone about creating their life in a new way? The biggest tip for me, personally in my own life, and this is my biggest suggestion to most people, is meditation. When I was in an area in my life where things weren't exactly perfect, but I knew that I wanted to make a shift and I wanted to do some changes in my own life, I started meditating. I found a meditation that I really, really enjoyed, and I made a point to fall asleep to that meditation each and every night. And as I was meditating, I would visualize the things that I did want in my life. Usually it was about the same scenario, something that I wanted to happen in my life. So I would do that every single night. I've actually done that for several years without fail, but about 4 to 5 months into that process is when I really started seeing some major changes, some major shifts. Things were just happening, and I knew that I had really changed the way my brain was thinking, the way my subconscious mind was processing things. So I got to change what I was observing because my mind was opening itself to new perceptions. And for me personally, I believe that was all meditation. So if I had to give one tip to change your life, it's meditation. I know it sounds just kind of cliche and simple, but really it is so profound. And if you really stick with it and you don't allow yourself to go, I'm not going to do it tonight or tomorrow night or maybe the next few nights or whenever it is that you decide to meditate. It might be in the morning. If you just don't allow that process in your mind to take over and kind of dictate where your actions are going to go, and you take the conscious choice to make sure that you're going to meditate each and every day, it really, really, really does make a profound difference. So that's my biggest tip. Okay, question number 4. How can I stop negative thoughts? This is such a huge question. The mind is habitual. That's the bottom line. Your mind has habits. And like I said in the last 2 questions ago, your subconscious mind loves routine. So it's all about the habits and the processes that it generally does, and it doesn't like to step out of that routine. So you want to start by catching yourself when you have negative thought. That's the first thing. You're going to catch yourself, and then you're going to make a conscious effort to replace it with something positive, because you've got to create a new pattern. Your brain has to understand that you're taking control of the processes that it's giving you, and you're going to change them into something else. So for instance, if you said, I hate my job and I hate going to work and I hate my boss, you might start reframing that. You might tell yourself, well, at least I have a job and I'm able to create money in my life because of this job. So I know I can create something. I can create money in my life. I've already proven that to myself. So I actually do create things that I do want, even if I don't like certain aspects of that. So if I can create what I want in that aspect, then certainly I can create something else. I know how to create things for myself. So you just want to kind of take the negativity and spin it off and find as many new positive things you can about that specific thought. So it's really just about creating a new pattern. And the more you do it, the more your brain is just going to automatically kick in with those new thoughts. And if you're consistent with it, you'll actually find that over the course of a month or two, maybe sooner, maybe later, everybody's different, you're immediately going to have your brain kick in and show you something new. And then the more you do that, the more, again, it becomes like a snowball effect. And you just train yourself in that way. You have to take conscious control of the way your mind works. Otherwise, it's going to be on default and autopilot. And if it's negative, then that's not going to work in your favor. So you have to purposefully change those patterns. Okay, next question. Why doesn't the law of attraction work for me? Well, the law of attraction works for everybody. The thing I think I see with most people is that they do some affirmations, or they do some meditations, or they change their positive thinking, or at least attempt to, and then they wonder why some magic genie didn't come out of a lamp and grant their wish. And that's not really the way the law of attraction works. It takes time. It takes time to change things. We are in a time-space reality, so there is a time frame. If you think of it like a seed that germinates, which I've talked about on my channel many times, you have to give it a moment. There's a gestation period in order for those things to happen. No genie's going to pop out and just hand you what you want. It's also important to realize that tons of successful people have failed. They've failed at things. They didn't get what they wanted right when they wanted it. The difference between those successful people and people that aren't as successful is that they didn't take no for an answer. They didn't stop pushing. They didn't let failure knock them on their butt. They just kept going and kept trying and kept pursuing until they were successful. The law of attraction does work, and it works both ways. It works negative and it works positive. And our job is to figure out how to make it work positive for us. So if you say, the law of attraction isn't working for me, and that's a belief that you have, then you're really not going to be able to use any of the tools that you're given to actually manifest the things that you want. Sometimes in our pursuit of success and in our pursuit to achieve certain goals, we're going to fail. And it doesn't always feel good and it's not great. But the attitude has to be, no matter how many times I fail, no matter how many times I get knocked down, I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to get up and make sure that I'm always pushing towards my dreams, because the more I do that, the more the universe is going to go, okay, he or she is not going to take no for an answer. We're going to have to do this. Like, we're going to have to give them this manifestation. And interestingly enough, that's pretty much the way it works. I'm kind of going off scale a little bit, but that is the way it works. And this is going to be the last question. So, do you ever have bad days? This was something personal for me. Yeah, of course. I don't like to say that I have bad days. I think that I have sometimes things happen that aren't so great, and in a physical body, I have emotions. So yeah, I do have certain things that happen that aren't always ideal. I think the last real bad day I had was I had a doggy that passed away last year, and that was tough to get over, even though I understand spiritual principles and I knew that I know that energy doesn't disappear, and I know that she's still here with me. Yeah, definitely. That was a bad day. It was a bad week. It was a bad couple of months. It was sad. So yeah, I definitely have bad days, but I think it's all in how we just reframe things. I sometimes, maybe I go outside and my car doesn't crank because the battery's dead, but I'm not going to let that ruin my day. Like, it's just going to be, okay, let's reframe things and regroup and move on to something else. And I think that's the most important thing. It's not the end of the world if your car battery doesn't crank, or it's not the end of the world if you stub your toe, or, if somebody brushes your shoulder as they walk past you. Those are the types of things that we have to learn to let go. And we do have to realize that we are in a human body having human experience, and it's important to let our emotions flow and be what they are. Sometimes you just have to sit with that for a minute and then move past it. So those are my first questions for my first Q&A, and I'll catch you guys on the next Q&A. Have a great day.